So I'm assuming that we are going live, and so we are live on YouTube. Welcome everybody, of course. This is another Envision Speaker Series conversation. And so for those of you in the audience, welcome. For those of you on the call, welcome. And how are you doing this morning?
Doing
Okay.
great.
I have a silent group this morning, and so
You are doing great.
we'll see if we
Wonderful,
can
wonderful.
we'll see if we can change that. So of course this is a YouTube live event, and so anything could happen. And I think things have already happened. So Rick is out there in Maryland on the road, broke down, but he's still dedicated to the call. So I have to give him double thumbs up. Let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody. Of course, you know me. My name is Dr. Keith McNally. This is an Envision Speaker Series conversation, and I'm here with Cheyenne Kramer, Richard Mabe, and Miriam Abba. And we're going to have a very specific conversation around the topic of suicide. Now, the four of us are a group of people who are addressing something that's going on in North Carolina. But before we dive in to the conversation, I'm going to ask each of the people who are on the call with me just kind of say, hey, who are you? Why are you here in this conversation? And what do you want to see as a result of this conversation? Cheyenne, I would love for you to get started. How are you doing?
Sure, I'm doing well. I am Cheyenne Kramer, and I am a co-founder of both Universal Solution Alliance and We Care Partnerships Network. And my experiences with suicide go back a long ways, all the way back to high school. So, you know, part of what I've built into the businesses that I have and that I run is the desire and the tools and the resources to be able to help bring wellness of body, mind, and spirit to the table so that more people can live a more joyful life. We need to kind of put an end to this serious depression and suicidal ideation. So that's my ultimate goal. That's why we're working on this event in Raleigh.
Cheyenne, I appreciate it. Let me go down to Rick. Rick, hey.
Hello and good morning. Thank you for having me on. My name is Rick Mabe, Coach Rick. I'm the founder of the Hope Institute and I'm a partner in the We Care Partnerships Network, and I'm working with Keith to help him move some things along. What I want to see happen is I want to see people learn about how to avoid taking that step, how to get back to the basics of humanity with honesty, omnipotence, pure love, and essence. That's the HOPE acronym. Helping young people become mentors, helping veterans to get off the street. We do quite a bit of work. We also do fiscal sponsorship for other projects as well. So that's why I'm here. I'm glad to be here, and just call me Coach Rick.
All right, Coach Rick, you be safe as we go through this conversation. You're somewhere out in Maryland, yes?
Yes, I'm in Maryland.
Okay. Mariama, welcome. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing great. It's raining out here in North Carolina today, but yeah, my name is Miriam Abba, and I have a nonprofit called Nation of Diversity. And our mission is reducing homelessness and raising awareness for mental health through arts. So my whole thing about, is giving those experiencing homelessness a voice to speak and advocate for them. And when it comes to, I don't have experience with suicide, but I know that there's a lot that's happening in the world right now that I have close friends who would experience suicide ideation, but my goal is to show people that there is a purpose in life and then people actually care. And as a group, we working together with the Envision project. Thank you for having me, that, to raise more awareness and actually help people as much as we can.
Well, I appreciate that from all of you. So let's go ahead and dive into this. But before we do, so a real quick disclaimer. And so I do believe that we are in the month of May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month across the
Hmm.
United States, if not globally. I'm not quite sure of the global part, but it has been because I'm a two-time suicide survivor. So I've made the attempt twice in the past 12 years, and I do recognize the need for mental health and psychiatric intervention as needed. However, the people on this call, me included, see suicide ideation, depression, and the issues surrounding that in a broader scope. It's more of a societal issue, and there are additional non-traditional ways of addressing people's needs, and part of that conversation is going to be held here today. So this is not a talk against traditional or Western medicines. I do understand the power of pharmaceutical medication and, credentialed treatment, but we need to include the family. We need to include society. We need to include church. We need to have conversations around why people struggle. And until we do, people who are struggling are just going to be left alone. And that's not what we need. And we're seeing the evidence of that at the college level. And it's unfortunate that NC State University was highlighted last year in 2023 through a series of deaths, some of them suicide related. But as Cheyenne will identify, the parents of these students are crying out. They want answers, they want support, they want help. So let's go ahead and get into this conversation, but I want to start with Mariama. You're right there in the heart of North Carolina. Cheyenne is now too, but she's a nomad, and so she just got there about a month ago. Mariama, you're there every day. What's going on in North Carolina?
Um, yeah, when I first found out about the suicide that was happening last year, I think it was two to three suicide in January. And I was doing an outreach, and some of my volunteer interns was talking about, like they're feeling a certain type of way because there has been suicide in the school. So it broke my heart that, the school year just had started and it's already been three suicides. And so I try to, do research and try to be more, involved in the NC State community and do one of the programs that we have with my nonprofit. But, through that, the school system has other procedures that they're not looking for other programs. They have help within their own community. So they're limited into having other resources to come in. And so as time goes by, I just keep hearing at my volunteers, like every month, there's like two, three suicides. And then till the end of the year, it was like 15 to 16 suicide. And it's happening right now in 2024 also. And so it really just broke my heart where I was trying to find different ways of how to like really help the community, especially the college community. And, with my volunteers, what they're expressing to me is that, this is heartbreaking and they feel like, they don't want to attend school anymore, too many pressure. And it's just a lot on their shoulders and not enough resources to help them within the schools. So yeah, I feel that, I want to do so much. I want to help so much, but there's also limited resources out there. And so that's why we're all here together to help as much as we can. And so I hope by the end of the year, this year at least, we have helped a lot of people, especially when it comes to the NC State School.
Mariama, I want to come back to you regarding the services that you and your nonprofit provide. Cheyenne, however, I want to jump to you real quick because you have recently have had some conversations, even brief conversations with some folks in North Carolina.
Absolutely. My husband and I have hit the ground running as soon as we got into Raleigh in terms of getting out and networking. And all in one day, we just kind of stumbled into two different people, two different dads who have students at NC State. And, we just, that's part of our networking is we're going, hey, we're putting together a suicide prevention event here in Raleigh. And we're really concerned about what's happening with college students. I know Mariama shared an article recently that talks about University of North Carolina also has had some of these same challenges. So, so I just said to them, I said, well, would you be interested in coming to this event? It's like, oh my God, yeah. One dad said, I have a sophomore at NC State, and they've been extremely traumatized by the number of suicides that have been happening there, and we really don't know what to do about it. So yeah, keep us posted. We want to be there, and we'll bring our students.
When you got that, we don't know what to do about it. Was that just kind of a flippant response from one of the dads, or is that really kind of the heartfelt, you know, mantra of what's going on in the area? Do you know?
Well, he certainly projected that he was genuinely concerned about his student. So, I mean, it's definitely well, as well as I do, there's not enough being talked about with this. And that's part of why we're doing this, is so that people raise the awareness and learn about the vast different ways that we can help to assist with this situation.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. Coach Rick, you have been directly impacted by suicide in your life, but this is a different turn. This is college students who really need our mentoring, our love, our support. Talk to me.
Yeah, I believe that that dad is probably correct, and that there's a lot of people that don't know what to do to help solve this whole thing. Our country is falling apart at the seams. It's breaking down from within, and this is not political. This is just fact. We've got a lot going on where the kids are being taught a certain way to believe, and they are getting to where a lot of them don't like America anymore. They don't like morals. They don't like family. They don't like dads. They don't like moms. All of these things are boiling over into, what do I do with my life? These kids are saying. And so what we're doing is making some real effort to help people avoid that with the Hope program, with the coaching program in Hope. And so I'll be in North Carolina tomorrow, actually talking to a host venue there for an event we're getting ready to have with Keith. So a lot of good things are happening, and we just need to make sure we get our faces out there to welcome people into what it is we have to share.
With that being said, and you mentioned kids don't know what to believe anymore or what to put their trust into. Everybody on this call is a different faith. Is that right? Do I get that right?
Is a what?
It's a different faith. You have different belief structures. Is that
We've
right?
I don't
got
know.
we've got Christianity, Muslim, and Judaism here. So yeah.
So, in order to help, in order to be productive, and in order to have those conversations that matter, which is my hashtag, we need to build an inclusive community. So, can the three of you talk about that? How inclusivity is going to be beneficial to help? And Mariam, I would like to start with you if that's okay.
That's fine. The first thing that comes in mind is the oneness. I know that each religion is there's some similarities in there. So I think that when we all come together, teaching the oneness and the unity, with bringing people together individually. In my religion, I know that it says that God said that in the Quran that we made you guys different to learn so that you could learn each other. It's not fully coded. I mean, I can't really fully code, but we made you guys different so that you could learn each other and learn from each other, and then to live and thrive in this world. So I feel like when it comes to this with a big topic, the religion and the faith that we have has to be number one. Spirituality to be able to try to fix this, because it's deeper than just shoving pills in people's faces and saying, hey, this is going to help you. It's not enough. It's more about like spirituality and bringing people together and actually like helping each other and giving each other lights, because we are all human beings that we're all struggling through things, but at the same times putting light into people is what will bring more results than actually trying to, I guess that, if that makes sense,
It, it does. It does perfectly. And I like the fact that you mentioned earlier that we are different, but we can learn from that difference. We could
Yeah.
learn from each other because we've all experienced life in different ways. If we all went through life in the same way and we faced a problem, we only know one way of solving it.
Hmm.
But the three of you plus me, the four of us, I'm kind of an outlier here. But the three of you with your faith-based understanding, if one thing isn't working, you could come together and find a solution because there are different ways to approach the problem.
Yep.
And that is so important today. Cheyenne, your faith
Yeah.
brings you here for a reason.
Well, it does because, from my perspective, if we're not figuring out, it's about purpose for me, purpose, passion, mission. I mean, that's what I've seen from day one is all the way back to high school is that too many people are disconnected. We don't have our head and our hearts connected. And that is such an important thing right now. And I'm really, really, really grateful that this group does represent both different races and different faiths. Because, when you look at the suicide epidemic that we really are looking at a societal level, it cuts across all religions, it cuts across all races, it cuts across socioeconomic statuses. It can be a unifier. And, again, I am totally on board with Mariama's perspective. Yeah, we do need to come together and learn from each other and stop thinking that, my way is the only way or my faith is the only way. That's pure hogwash. And when we do that, we're hurting ourselves because we're eliminating some of the possibilities for creating awesome, amazing change.
Awesome, amazing change is the phrase we got to work with. Coach Rick.
Yes, absolutely. I'm at a little bit of a loss for words because what both of them have said is absolutely true. We are one, we are one people under God. We may have Muhammad as our savior. We may have Jesus as our savior, Buddha, whoever, or God in the Jewish religion. It's all under one God. And the United States is one nation under God. And if there's any nation on this earth that can pull this thing off and do it with the inclusiveness that we need to, it's the United States of America. And so we really just want to and need to and will bring people back to that basic understanding of common decency and human life. I don't think anybody on this call would deny or deny that honesty, connection to God, pure love, and finding your life purpose through your essence are not good, are not the right way to be. So I think we've all got the solution. I think we all just need to move forward and get her done. Yeah. Real quick, you asked me something else. I'll just take a second. You asked me about my experience with suicide, and I'm sorry I didn't answer that question. Yes, my father did suicide when I was 14. It ruined me, and I was a mess for the next 30 years. And so that's where I come from with this, in that helping people who are experiencing suicide and being survivors on the receiving end of that. That's what I want to help do and help coach, because there are answers that we need to take away from those lessons we learn from other people doing what they do
Coach
and
Rick,
from what I experienced. So thank you for that. I just want to add that. Thank you.
no, I totally appreciate that. So let's talk about our drive and what we offer the collegiate students and their families in the community from each of you. And I don't really, at this point, it's a free-for-all conversation. What services, what type of help are we going to offer them that is not have already been offered to them? Because we said earlier in the call, Western medicine, psychiatric services are appropriate, but there's a bigger scope of need that's not being even addressed or touched upon. And Mariama then said in 2024, there are still issues of suicide happening at the very least that we are aware of in North Carolina. Now, it just so happens that the two of you, Cheyenne and Mariama, are in North Carolina. Coach Rick and I are in Virginia, so we're neighbors. But it's a heart-wrenching thought to think that we aren't doing everything that's possible. So let's talk about that. What is possible? What can we offer?
I'll go first since that's kind of a quiet spot there.
Okay.
Okay, so Vision is the coaching platform that we use to help people to get through their grief, to realign with themselves in an honest way, do an assessment of themselves honestly. I think part of the missing picture here is trying to soft shoe around the real issues that these people are facing, that these friends are facing. And we've got to be ready to sit still and say, okay, I'm going to ask you some honest questions. I want you to answer me honestly. Define honesty. You got to do that. You got to let them know what honesty really is versus truth, and go through that with them, help them to assess the current situation, and then make sure they're connected spiritually so that they can get that connection. And whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it God, there is only God for my mind, but there's the matrix, there's the universe, there's the ether, there's this whole giant computer of information out here that God provided us to be able to tap into and help people understand what it is they're connected to God through. It's called the honesty navigation system between the heart, the brain, and the soul. And so that's the omnipotent piece of it. And the pure love piece of it is just like we've been saying, we've got to teach people how to love purely. And what that really means is be able to love without any expectation of reciprocity, whether their skin color, whether their sex preference, whether their religion, whether their color, whatever it is, they're still human beings who we must love without judgment and without expecting reciprocity. That's a tough one. It's been tough for me, but I do it now. I do have it in my heart. I love everyone. I don't not love anybody. Might love from a distance, but I love. And then the last thing is when you come through that and you start awakening your inner child, I like to call it sometimes. When you start awakening that inner child, you're starting to feel your essence. You're starting to sense the essence for what you were put here to do. Like me and others, like Keith and Shay and Mariama, we're all here to do a thing. And you start realizing that, and then you have to act on it. So that's where we're at right now. That's what we offer.
Mariama,
Yes.
what does your
I'll talk.
nonprofit offer?
Yes, my nonprofit offers. So we are the advocate for those experiencing homelessness, and I feel like they don't have enough voice out there. There are also a lot of suicides within those experiencing homelessness, but it's not being reported as much as others like us, right? In this society. So we are an advocate for them. We help them, find resources out here in the North Carolina Triangle area, or even like certain places. Like we had a lady who had diabetes, and she called me. She was like, "I'm gonna die out here if I don't get help." And so I called her. I was like, she called me, and I was like, "Let's go. If you want to go to Florida, somewhere that's hot, resources." To help them in the situation that they can. And we also have a program called the Circle Speaks, which I think is very important, that I'm trying to push to have within the colleges. The Circle Speaks is doing different form of arts, and those experiencing homelessness is welcome. Anyone else is welcome. No age group, and we are really connecting and relating and telling our stories. And I find the importance of that because as myself going through my mental health issues, I was able to really find the support system that was, that I needed, that I didn't know I needed until I created a group, a circle speak group, a group with my friends. We just came together, we were doing art, and I just started like blabbing all my problems. And realizing that all my friends were also going through that, but no one says anything until it takes that one person to speak up. So I realized, having this connection, having this, this safe space for people to come and feel cared for and feel heard will be could make a huge difference, and we can relate to one another, and what you're going through is literally might be what I'm going through, and we just need to just connect and talk and eat and talk about God and pray together, and then that will have a sense of like light in you to make you want to go outside and really help other people also, and help yourself and find resources to help yourself, like Cheyenne was saying. Having purpose, allowing people to have purpose within themselves. So that's my goal, and I hope that and other colleges are able to have this program so that we can bring a unity within one another.
Well, Cheyenne has always talked about purpose, and she's always talked about in every conversation that I've had with her, the heart-head connection. And I think your phrase is follow your heart. That's what you've always told me. And I actually wrote about it the other day or this past week. in one of
Mhm.
my LinkedIn newsletters is to follow your heart.
Well, it's true. And, everybody talks about science, but a lot of people don't understand some of the science that's out there because there actually is evidence now that there's almost as much of a brain in our heart neurologically as this one. And if there's a disconnection between them, if there's, it's like, it's devastating to people. Christianity talks a lot about the Holy Spirit. And people do believe that more and more people are starting to connect to the Holy Spirit. I believe that comes from a connection with your heart.
Mm,
And in that connection to the Holy Spirit, that's where we start to be able to hear that still small voice within. I saw something, I think Eileen Bild was talking about that recently, and some of your other folks that you're working with. And when you hear that still small voice, now you start to realize it's like, okay, if this is a voice that I'm hearing and it's only seeming to bring me positive ideas or positive thoughts or positive feelings, maybe I'm not really alone. And that's one of the keys that I'm hearing from so many of our young people is I can stand in a room full of people and feel totally alone. Well, why is that? It's because we're not connected here. And part of that connection is about purpose. I mean, Rick has one way of trying to help people get to purpose. I'm all about how do we inject purpose into our careers? That to me is the biggest thing we have to be able to do. And, that's where my experiences with suicide go all the way back to high school. I lost a close friend in high school to suicide. And then one of the gentlemen that I actually graduated with, I was concerned about. That's why I did my speech about following your heart, because I was watching him and I knew that he already had a strong desire to go down the path of ministry. But some very well feeling, well intentioned parents said, "Oh, but you're so good with numbers. You'd do so much better
mm,
going and getting an accounting degree."
mm,
And he worked as an accountant for years and he did it very well, but he
mhm,
committed suicide 10 years ago.
mm,
And so those are the things that are so much a kicker to me is just how do we help people honor that purpose and build their income around whatever they're feeling in their heart instead of saying that's not realistic or that's not going to be where the money is. That hogwash has got to go.
mm,
You came up all the way. You and your husband drove literally all the way up from Florida, and you're now currently, as of the time of this recording, in North Carolina. Yes.
Yes.
And so the four of us are planning. September 21st is our plan date, is our event date. You have a venue for us, yes?
Yes.
Can you talk about that
Absolutely.
real brief?
Absolutely. Well, and again, because we're wanting to, as part of this, we want to really highlight some of the pieces of our spiritual nature and why it's so important for us to, find that connection in life. We feel like it would make sense to have a church involved,
Do
and
we
so
have, so yes?
yes, we do, and it's actually called Unity Church of the Triangle, and it's kind of funny because a lot of people have some really interesting ideas about what Unity Church is and isn't all about, and it was funny because we're actually parked at a church. We have great friends here, First Alliance Church in Raleigh, and we wanted to have the event here, but they already had their building kind of being used for other
Occupied.
things,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
we couldn't do it. But when they said, "Well, where did you find a place to have it?" and I said, "Unity Church of the Triangle," and they're like, "That's not a real church." I'm like, "Really?" And
What does that
I went,
mean?
"What does that mean?" I said, "Wait a minute. They read from the Bible every Sunday, and they love Jesus. Why are they not a real church?" Well, she didn't have an answer.
mm. Was it the name?
I
Well,
don't think there's I don't think there is an answer to that question.
yeah, it was interesting, but there is, because unity is very much about oneness and about a belief that we are all, they welcome all religions, even though they call themselves practical Christianity. They welcome people from all religions to show up there, and a lot of times their services are very unifying in terms of how they think and how they believe. So yeah, that's where we'll be. It's right off from US 70 here in the middle of Raleigh, and I'm excited. It's a beautiful facility, and Don and Rick and I are going to go and definitely go and take a look at it tomorrow. And Mariama and Keith are welcome to join us.
So I do appreciate that. I don't know if I'm going to get there. There's lots of variables between my trip from Virginia to the mountains because I'm actually training for an AT through hike in 2025, but that's a conversation for another time. The church, and so how invested are they in seeing change happen? I'm curious. So what is their piece in all of this? What is their play?
Well, and that's part of what we need to spend a little more time, asking them questions and determining exactly, what role do they want to play. When we approached them, I was fully willing to say, okay, if we need to pay you guys rent to use your space, we're willing to do that. But I also encourage them, because this is part of my concern with the church community, and I don't care what religion we're talking about, is that, I believe churches can be doing more to engage in their community. And, here at this church, they're doing a number of things to do that right now. Every Saturday morning, they do produce sales out here, and they're, got all kinds of people coming in here on Saturday mornings. So they're working on doing more community-based things. When I talked to Unity a number of years ago, I was trying to get them engaged in community back then, and they weren't, and that was 10 years ago. That wasn't where we are today. It was like they were nervous to go out there and try to talk to people about their spiritual thoughts and beliefs. And so they tended to be very holed up inside their four walls. And that to me is, that's one of the things. And when I went to them, I said, look, I know, I said, this is a way that you guys, if you want to get involved with us, that you guys can help with outreach into the community and have something that a lot of people are going to relate to. Suicide is something everybody's relating to right now. And they came back to me and just said, you know what? We want to partner with you. And I said, wow, okay. And I said, so I haven't heard anything about a rental fee. I haven't either. So just go forward. I'm like, okay.
I think that works for all of us. Mariama, you are what religion?
I'm Muslim.
So how do they engage? I'm kind of stepping over my words here in terms of the whole idea of helping people who struggle emotionally and especially with suicide. Is there an outreach from that faith community?
Yeah, there surely is. I know one of the biggest mosques here, IR, they have group sessions when it comes to mental health, and they actually have multiple psychiatrists, therapists that comes and has a guest to talk about mental health and uniting the oneness of God and unity into suicide. I am involved but not really involved in the mosque. I practice by myself spiritually in my own faith by myself, but I don't really join the mosque community. But I know that for sure the whole thing, the whole message about Islam is literally the oneness of God and the oneness of us. Like, we are all alike, we are all the same people. We just have to learn from each other and then be there for each other and support one another. It's a peaceful religion. I know there's a lot of, propaganda and stuff about Islam, but it's not true. I'm just putting it out there. But that's why we are doing this. We believe that, like, every religion could come together and, do this type of hard conversation, hard suicide conversation. And the thing about the Islam community too, we have a sisterhood group that I join sometimes. Um, People are kind of like afraid about talking about what they're feeling.
Mm.
And also that's one of the reasons why I decided to talk about my circle speaks, to do my mental health group peer support program. So to take that first step and actually talk about it. Some people don't relate mental health into spirituality when it really is the same thing. It really is. They think, mental health is some of the physical thing that's happening in our lives, and that's what's causing us to be, depressed. It's true, but also it's deeper than that. It's way deeper than what we really think. And Cheyenne is definitely a great person to talk about the mind and the heart all together. So yeah.
And in the conversations that I have, and especially my direct relationship with suicide ideation, having made the attempt twice, is recognizing that all of the stuff, all the chaos, and all of the basically the crap that goes on in lives, sometimes it's too overwhelming, and so overwhelming that it creates trauma. And I guess I'll put it simply. It creates trauma in the body, in the mind, physiologically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. It's just kind of all consuming. And so when that happens and you're not able to function, and I wasn't able to function, meaning that I would spend a lot of time, in the closet crying, because I didn't see a way out. There was no options for me to do one thing or the other and survive my situation. And I'll just kind of give some insight into the most recent in 2021 is like when we're coming out of COVID, coming out of the quarantine, I had lost my job. I was unemployed for 12 months. And as a middle-aged man, I always say that, at the time I was 51, 52, um, having lost my job, being unemployed for 12 months, about to lose my house. I had at the time a 12-year-old daughter. She's 14 now. My life was simply falling apart, and I was trying so hard to hold on to everything, and everything was slipping through my hands. And I felt helpless and hopeless. And that's not, you don't want to be there. That's not any place you want to be. But that trauma is so ever present, you don't know what to do until somebody says, in certain words, let me help you. Even if you're not even asking for help. And that's why I think coming together, because people may not be literally saying, help me. But if we're proactive and say, let me help you, because I've been through the shit. Cheyenne, you've had friends die. Rick, your dad died. We've experienced the wake of that emotional trauma. And because of that, we can literally say to somebody, I can help you. Let me help you. You know how much of a relief that is for the individual? I'm about to cry and I don't want to cry because I've been there. Meaning that somebody finally validates who they are, what they're experiencing, and they just don't know how to ask for help. But if the people that on this call and the people who are around us connected to us and say, let me help too. Because Cheyenne, you in your, and I'm going to call you the glue now, the glue that keeps us together. I called you that on LinkedIn. Every time you turn around, every day, it's just about every day you turn around and you talk about this, somebody tells you, how can I help? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, people are searching for answers right now. And that's what that's why I think, you know, the timing of us coming together and pulling this together is so important. And there's even other things because, you know, part of what we intend to do here in Raleigh is have a very experiential component of this so that people can come in and be able to experience different things that maybe they've never heard some of these things before. I mean, one of the things that I'm going to be doing is based on this crazy thing. You know, I have the ability now to be able to say, okay, we're going to do a 30-second face scan, and this is going to tell you exactly where you're nutritionally deficient. And, you know, and it's also going to tell you where your emotions are at. Okay. So technology has taken some of the guesswork because Dr. Joel Wallach has proven through massive amounts of research that our brain activity is affected when we have mineral deficiencies. So that's part of what we're going to be teaching people about is, you know, how do you make sure your brain's got the minerals it needs? And oh, by the way, our brain's made of cholesterol. We need cholesterol to have optimum brain activity. So, you know, there are things like that that people don't have a clue about. And then even, you know, you get to see some of the things that that we've been trained in terms of being able to use techniques that are similar to acupuncture to help the body calm itself from anxiety feelings and stress feelings and all of that. So that's going to be such an important key too, is just exposing people to some new ideas that they have the opportunity to experience if they want to, and help them to understand that there's a much broader world. And oh, by the way, some of this broader world is not covered by medical insurance.
Mm, yeah.
Rick, I don't want to leave you out. You've been kind of busy, and I know you're on a breakdown on the side of the road, but I want to include you as you try to conclude this conversation. Rick, what's going on in your head?
Well, I think we've got the great team here. And I think that we started working on this a while back and it's starting to really gel now. We're beginning to put a team together that is dedicated. We've got a lot going on. We just need to stay focused and keep doing our power thinking and doing our things that we need to do to pull ourselves together. You know, I was on the radio yesterday with a talk show host, and he was talking about something called um, Flagstock, and his name is John Hill, and he's a country music singer. He was being
John Rich.
interviewed. I mean, Josh, excuse me, what did I say? John Hill, John Rich, and he was talking about the things that people are doing in response to the violence and things that's happening on college campuses right now. The amazing thing about it was he welcomed me. He heard what I had to offer. He heard what we're doing with the Hope Institute and We Care Partnerships and how we're helping people to move forward. And he took down their website and everything. So keep an eye out for this massive movement that has now been fired. It's been fired up. It's coming across our country like wildfire within the next couple of weeks. And we're ready. We're able to serve. We're ready to help. And just be on the lookout for that because we are in the right place at the right time to help people to move on and get away from the mentality and emotional state that's driving them over the cliff. It's a movement happening right now. We're all been involved. We've been involved. Shay and I have been working together for going on 20 years now. And we've been saying to each other, it's coming. It's coming. Here it is. It's time for us to unite and to do the things we need to do. And so in closing, I want to say the truck is repaired. We got it. I think we got it fixed. He's trying to start it right now. And so I love you guys. I really, really love you. And I want us to continue to move forward. And we are focused about as much as I think we can be in terms of dedication and commitment at the moment. But as things continue to gel and harden, all of us, especially, Shay, you're already on your own. Miriam, I think you're already on your own.
Mhm.
Me and Keith will be on our own very shortly because of the movement that's hitting at the same time that we're jacking ourselves into it. So love you. Congratulations. I feel like that we are going to be on the cusp of this whole thing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Cheyenne, Mariama, final closing thoughts before I close the conversation?
I'm just excited to see the result that I know there's going to be a result. I feel it in my heart. And because of the amazing group that we have, I just can't wait to see all the people that we get to touch and all the stories that we get to hear, because there's a lot of stories out there, and I'm excited, and I'm definitely happy. I feel sometimes, I'm 25, so I sometimes feel like even my nonprofit, I don't it's not enough. That's not, my purpose. My purpose should be something else again to add on to that. So this is giving me, it's filling my heart. So I'm happy. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, so here's what I have been repeating to a lot of people recently, and I truly believe this is a huge key in helping to reduce suicide ideation. And that is that more of us need to be coming together in love, peace, and unity. And let's forget the anger, the hatred, and the division.
There's no better way of ending this conversation than with those words. So with that, for those of you who've been watching and listening, this has been another edition of the Envision Speaker Series, and I will see you next time. Take care.
Keith, wait. I want to say congratulations on your courage, sir. The amount of courage that it takes for you to do what you're doing and to be so dedicated to what you're doing is nothing short of heroic. And I want everybody to understand that, because this takes a special kind of person to step up and do the things that we're doing. And we've all been at this for a long time now. And I am just so proud of you, Keith, for what you're doing. And just keep it up. We're with you. I know you're with us. We're going to keep moving. So I love you, man. Thank you so much for being who you are.
Thank you, sir.